Hi everyone, Adam Hewison here, just back from vacation. Had a great vacation in Canada up in the Rockies, and we took the Rocky Mountaineer, which is a fabulous train to take through the Rockies. Great time, back in the saddle, so to speak, looking at the markets, and obviously we see new highs on the Dow, which is a trend that's been in place for quite some time. You can see based on our trade triangles when we got into this trend and just where we think this is headed. Because if you look at the trends, our first signal was right back here. This is actually in early April, and then we got back in right here to catch this move up. Now the question is, how high can this market go? Based on our technical analysis, and that's what it is, so we're just judging, just taking this straight line right across here. This seems to be a large base. And this is capable, in our opinion, of taking the Dow up to, I'm guessing, around the 17,500 and 18,000. That's what we're looking for from this measurement right here. That's where we think this market could head right now. Very strong trends. Do not try to pick a top in this market. It's not possible at this point in time. It's not profitable. So very strong trends. Stay with the trend. Trend is heading up to these levels. So you can see where we are right now. Several hundred points higher, and I think it could be a good trade. So let's move on to our next market. It's pretty much the same thing with the S&P 500. You can see we've very strong trends again. We've broken up to the upside. The key area to look at, in our opinion, is this area right here. We've broken, really cleared this situation. You can see all of our trade triangles all positive right here, indicating a strong trend to the upside. We're looking for this market to move up to 1985 and of course to 2000. That's going to be a big psychological number for this market to get over. So they're the areas we're looking at. I think any kind of pullback we'll see will be an opportunity to buy. We're also going into a new high for the weekend, which is also very, very positive in our opinion. Unless something happens later today, we expect this market to really perform well early next week. So let's move on. Here's the Nasdaq. A little bit of a different picture for the Nasdaq, because the one thing you have with the Nasdaq, you actually have a mixed picture in the sense that you have a monthly trend, which is right here, which is negative. And if you remember on the Dow and the S&P 500, that's green, it's positive. So this is not having the same enjoyment. I think we could see the market get up to these levels right here, maybe the 4,300 level and 44 perhaps, but I don't think we're going to see it go much higher than that right now, unless it just something just totally breaks out. And this then becomes like a large pivot point. So there's the pivot point right there. There's the double bottom there. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But generally speaking, this is definitely going to be resistance for this market around the 4,350 area. Looking at the euro dollar, pretty much a mixed picture there. Kind of a strange deal yesterday with them putting negative interest rates. Draghi putting negative interest rates really did not do what they thought it would do. And you can see we have a negative kind of trade triangles on the monthly and the weekly, but the daily is positive, indicating you should really be on the sidelines in this market for the time being. And if we scope this out just a bit further, you can really see that this market has really been in a very large kind of box shape. If you just sort of like here, it really hasn't gotten out of that box since last November. So I think generally speaking, the best place to be, as I said, is really on the sidelines as we have a conflicting trade triangle pattern on the weekly and the dailies. So let's move on. This is gold, and gold has had a move down, and obviously we have our trade triangles here. One thing I would caution you about looking at right now is what's going on in gold is this, in my humble opinion. You are getting very close to an area that could potentially be a major low. So you have a major low here, you have one here. Time-wise, you're looking at right around these levels right here. So maybe this coming week could be another push down, but generally speaking, every time we've gotten down to these levels during this time window, and that's the key thing to look at, is we've had a pretty significant move up. So there's the cycle, and you can see it's pretty pronounced. So we could just generally see this market move up. Maybe a good time to look at buying options in that gold. So let's see how that plays out. Generally speaking, the gold trend, however, is negative, at least on the longer term monthly, and the weekly is negative, but the daily is positive, indicating you should be on the sidelines in this market at the moment. Looking at crude oil, you can see crude oil is really the one thing I noticed when I came back is crude oil is the fact that we're very close to the 50 line, and remember the 50 line on the RSI is usually giving support to this market, so we're right here. And generally speaking, it's been a little bit choppy, and you do have a mixed signal, meaning you should be out of this market. The monthly is positive, the weekly is positive, the daily, which we use for timing, is red, indicating you should be on the sidelines. So I think that's all we have for today. Look at our 52-week highs for some weekend trades. You've seen us talk about those before. There should be some good ones coming up. And generally speaking, the way the equity markets are closing today, it looks like we're going to have another strong week next week. Hey, Adam Hewison here. Good to be back. Look forward to working with you next week. And remember, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to go in our Q&A section on our blog and ask us about any market. We'll do our very, very best to answer you. Ask about any market and get an answer. Only for members and only from MarketClub.com. Have a great weekend, everyone.